Welcome to the very first episode of Financial Wellbeing with Emirates NBD, the podcast where we take complex financial topics, break them down, and share actionable insights and enable you to take control of your finances. I'm your host, Dana Qamba, and today's episode, we're going to be discussing the very foundation to financial success. It's a topic I wish I knew a lot earlier in my life, and that is financial discipline, which often is the difference between what we earn and what we build. Joining me today to discuss what it takes to build that financial discipline and maintain it over time is Raed Al Jaser, Group Head of Wealth Advisory at Emirates NBD. Welcome to the podcast, Raed.
Thank you, Dana.
I'm going to start off with, what do you think financial discipline is, and what do you think makes a person financially disciplined?
So in my opinion, financial discipline is a mindset. It's what people fear to do, want to do, don't know how to do. It's as simple as teaching a child how to save their pocket money or part of their pocket money and to use it for a better thing on a later on. So it starts at that particular young age and it grows with us. The more we have or we earn from our money, we stop realizing what to do with it. And with the lifestyle around us, everyone wants to buy everything, and no one thinks that there is going to be a bad day in the future or a good day in the future. And if it's a bad day, how do I do about it, or what do I do about it, and what needs to be done to hedge that particular future, I would say. So it is, in my opinion, a mindset, and it starts from there. Now, how to do it? It's a very long answer. But again, it starts by doing the right calculations when it comes to your own earnings, your fixed expenses, I would say, how much you think you're going to use for your lifestyle in terms of luxury aspect of things, and what would be left for you to save. That's the normal things which everyone usually does. But this has to have more of a scientific way to approach, in the sense, if you have a goal to buy a car, if you take the car and you have objective, a financial objective, which is to achieve a 200,000 dirham because you need to buy the car, you need to reverse calculate this. I need the car in 2 years, so I need to reverse the 200 over 24 months. And on those bases, you come up with the outcome. Then you plan your life accordingly. That's an easier way to do, rather than coming up with the outcome or trying to come up with an outcome without having a strategy or a plan in place.
So would you say that financial discipline would require one to have like a goal in mind or an approach to how they go about their finances?
Absolutely.
And how would you suggest someone starts to determine that their own strategy for life?
So there are the basic goals which are common across almost everyone, which is probably retirement, education planning for their kids, having a bulk of cash, or just saving money post-work, right? Those are the common goals. So as long as you identify that particular goal or an objective as a person, it will become very easy for you to achieve that goal. Now, there has been clients who told me, I want to buy an island and I want to buy a yacht, right? Which again, they're just simple goals and objectives. Maybe they're more expensive, but I'm sure they have to find the means to achieve those particular goals. And since you have that direction, it's like a soccer game, right? All the team are marching towards the goal to score the goal, and it's exactly the same, but with a different angle.
You know, a lot of people might find it difficult to take action when it comes to money, especially if they're starting off. Let's just say they have their first job and they're getting that paycheck that they're not very used to. What advice would you give to them for them to start having that discipline early on?
Again, it rolls down to the way you were raised at your house. But as a piece of advice, I would say find yourself one of those providers that you could commit to. Have a plan, allocate an amount of money. Don't look at it. Check this plan in 5 or 10 or 20 years. Just commit to something and you'll find a good result. Even if you don't want to do it scientifically, just make sure you commit to something. Another way you could look at it is just say, you know what, I'm earning 10. I lived my college time with 4. let me spend 8, let me throw 2 in a saving. So there's different ways to do it. But I think the key word here is commitment, and you just need to be aware that you need to take this commitment. And trust me, Dana, there's no setup rule, right? Every person will come and give you a certain theory, and there could be all of them are right. But what works with you does not work with me, or so. So you need to find your own, I would say, style and the goal, and then commit to it and just work around it and don't look back. As in, it's not something where you say, I'm saving and I'm committed to my retirement at the age of 30. But after 2-3 years, they come up with a new, I don't know, car or something which is close to your heart. And so like, you know what, I'll start my commitment to my retirement today, but I'll use that money to buy a car. It doesn't work this way, right? You have to be disciplined in the way you approach. And that's why you set up a goal, find an alternative solution to buy that car. Don't use that money. So, yeah.
What would you say are the common challenges people tend to face whenever they have that discipline in mind? Like you mentioned one now, getting distracted by something that they like. What would you say are the most common challenges?
Lifestyle. So especially if you live in cities where everything is available, it's always the challenge of, I want that. Oh, that's a better thing. I want that. But people nowadays are dragged into the lifestyle and the luxurious stuff which is around them. And this is where it becomes a challenge. Now, other people who can barely maintain a normal lifestyle, as in just paying the basic utilities and all of these things, they need to drop a little bit of their lifestyle. So if I'm living in 100,000 dirham apartment, paying rent, I should drop this to a 60,000 or a 70,000 or change the location. If I'm using a car where I have to spend 2,000 dirham on gas, I need to reduce the consumption of gas by either using public transportation or getting a smaller engine, let's say, so I don't spend more on gas. So there's certain tweaks here and there. And everyone goes through challenges or ups and downs in their careers. So your salary could go up tomorrow and you could lose your job tomorrow. So you have to make sure that you can adapt to the situation. And this is where this ecosystem needs to work.
On adapting, and again, it goes back to mindset, like you mentioned earlier. How would you say your financial approach has evolved throughout the years, and what are the key learnings that you've experienced?
Again, commitment, right? Commitment is a very, very important thing, but the commitment type changes in the sense. If you go back 15 years, I'm totally a different person than 15 years ago, right? Yeah, because 15 years back, I was single. Today, I have 3 kids. So now the commitment changes in the sense it's no longer my retirement, it's my children's education, or it's retirement plus my children's education, or it's retirement, their education, their protection. So I try to, as much as possible today, commit to ensure they have a good future. So I try to save for them. A, for their universities, B, for their lifestyle after universities, plus working on my retirement because I still would like to see their grandchildren and all of these things. But you have to do those small calculative moves every time the circumstances changes. And believe it or not, I seek my advisor's help whenever I need to review certain things for me. A, I don't have time. B, I trust their judgment because they're on the road every day meeting clients and they actually have accumulated more experience in these things than me, right? So, yeah. So,
you mentioned how the commitment evolved throughout the years. Can you give an example of how it evolved for you prior to like, having a family? We can start from when you had your first job, let's just say, and then moving to where you are now.
Let me tell you a story where it's a personal story. So when I started working, I was 21 years old. I literally graduated after a couple of months or so. I took my first job. So in my first year, I literally saved nothing. I was spending everything I earned and I had no expenses. I was living in my parents' house. I don't pay for anything, literally just my own life, right? My whatever, right? That bank had a plan where you could save up to 5 or 10% of your salary. And you could choose 1 or 2 or 3 years plan and so on. So I selected 12. I had no clue. So every time my salary comes, it comes less than 10%. It comes in less than. So by the 6th or the 7th month, I actually have adapted that my salary is that remaining, and whatever they're taking, they're taking. Now, luckily, I was very lucky at that time. Whatever shares they had bought for me, and that was that bank's shares, it had doubled in value for some reason. In 12 months, it doubled. So let's say I contributed 12,000 dirhams. It became 24,000 dirhams. I was so happy, right?
Amazing.
And this is where it actually struck me. And I started reflecting on everything I have been doing, as in I wasted a year. It's okay, I was 21, no problem. It's never too late. Even if someone who's listening to this was at 60 years old or at 50 years old, but they're still working, there's always a way, and there's different ways. As long as you believe, it's never too late. After that, and again, I was not that experienced. I was just a junior officer in the bank. But one of my friends had told me National Bonds at that time was giving a 2% return. And he's like, you can buy 500 or 1,000 dirham as much as you want, right?
And was your commitment at that time to make money, or what was it?
The commitment is just to save money.
Just to save, okay.
It's simple. You know what? I'm earning. I'm happy with my salary. If I earn 20 or I earn 17 or 16, it really doesn't make a big difference. Mm-hmm. You just need to realize that there's only 16 to spend. There's no 20 more to spend, right? You just need to forget about the 4. So every month I used to put 1,000. And it was on a standing instruction from my bank account that I had forgotten what my initial salary is, because it's just going.
Yeah.
It's just rolling. And I'm like, you know what? Fine. Whenever they send me a statement, like, oh, I managed to save extra 1,000. And it make me feel a little bit happy. After a few years, that 1,000 became, I think, 100,000. And at that time, I was moving towards marriage, and I was getting engaged and all of these things. Now, marriage requires lots of expenses, house, and all of these things, right? So by the time marriage is there, I've spent everything I have saved. I returned back, literally till we returned back to the UAE from the honeymoon. Yeah. I entered bank account 0, right? Now, the good thing is national bond, 100,000. So actually that gives you a little bit of a sense of comfort. Actually, there is some backup here and there.
So you never touched that?
I managed to never touch that. And I literally touched it when I wanted to redeem the plan and apply for another plan. And I think that 100,000 is still there in one of my plans today, because it has a nice memory in me. But yeah, this is how it is.
A lot of people tend to avoid looking at their bank statements, or they're a bit nervous around what it might say about them. What advice can you give for people to be a bit more aware of their own financial situations and behaviors, and start to build that discipline that they need?
For those who are trying to avoid their statements, I would actually encourage them to review those statements, because if I am checking my statements and I see that I am spending so much here, and here, they would realize what wrongdoing is happening in their behavior. And they could work and to ratify this in the upcoming, because this month has happened, you've spent, but you still have years of spending, and you need to watch out from the mistakes you've made. And they won't fix it immediately. Like some people might, but you might, for example, slash your known expenses from 3,000 dirhams to 500 dirhams because I don't know, this item I bought I don't need, this I bought I never used, and this and that. And now with digital markets and all of these things, it becomes very easy and very simple. And this is where people need to realize that what they're doing is wrong, because it is a digital payment, but it's actual cash you're paying from your bank account.
I do remember, how it was to actually physically count, and now you don't have that sense check to know how much you're actually spending.
Check. Absolutely, yep, you nailed it.
Yeah. What advice would you give people who are comparing a lot? They see a lot of people living a certain lifestyle, and, they see people driving specific cars, and they feel that pressure to get to that level, but maybe they can't necessarily afford it. What type of disciplinary sense check, in this sense, could you provide as an advice for those people in those situations?
be honest to yourself. Be honest to what you do, and always do a self realization, I would say. So you can't live in a dream, or you can't live in someone else's shoes. This is my income. You'll always find someone who's earning less than your income, and you'll always find people who are earning higher than you, irrespective where you are in the wealth segmentations, right? You could find today a billionaire who's looking up to a $10 billion dollar type of client, and you could find a millionaire who's looking at 100 million, and the 100 million is looking at a 1 billion, and you could find a 5,000 dirham employee who's looking at his manager who's earning 9,000 dirham of income. So you'll always have someone who's earning more, and you'll always find someone who's earning less. My advice to those people, and I'm like, try to learn what they do and try to learn from them how they do it. And if you want to replicate their lifestyle, be my guest, but make sure you replicate their income as well. As in, it goes back to the previous example. If you're earning 10,000 salary, you can't live 100,000 dirham salary, salaried individual. So you just need to realize where do you stand and stop. If I can't afford a million dirham car today, that means I can't afford a million dirham car. If it's going to be a 10,000 dirham used car, that's going to be a 10,000 dirham used car. It doesn't mean I stop at a 10,000 dirham. Gun for the million. You have to dream big, but don't live the dream before you reach there. So
we briefly touched upon different personalities and how people go about money. And if we were to break it down, we have some people that are like impulsive, some people that are the savers, some people that are the perfectionists, where they wait for the best opportunity for them to actually take action. What would be the advice that you would give to these different personality types to be able to not just start their disciplinary journey, but to maintain it and evolve over time?
I would say seek a specialist opinion. And I would say any banker in the country can give you the basics, especially the staff who sits in the branches, the relationship managers, the wealth advisors across any bank, not only Emirates NBD, any bank. I would say start by there. From their experience, from interacting with their customers on a daily basis, hourly basis, it could be even less than that, more than that. You could grab some tips and advices of how can you start. Second thing, you can go one notch up and ask for a professional advisor or financial planner. They go with different names. It could be wealth manager, it could be wealth advisor, it could be financial planners. And there's always online services where it could help you. But in my opinion, when it comes to these things, I would always seek a professional, regulated body to give me this particular support.
That's an interesting one, that you go into the actual branches and seek that advice there. I don't think a lot of people necessarily will be aware that that is available in most banking services.
So let me just make it even simple, right? So most of the people worldwide, they have issues with their credit cards. So a very simple trick nowadays, and in the UAE, for example, if you don't pay 100% of your credit card, the bank will charge you 3% up and down on a monthly basis. So annually, you pay 30 to 36%, depending what type of card you have. A very simple trick I used to use in the old days, and I had customers walking in, paying 5%, 10%, struggling, interest is growing, the card amount had doubled over 2 to 3 years because they can't afford it. So a simple trick I used to put a small Excel sheet for this customer and tell them, Mr. Customer, you had 30,000 dirhams of debt on your credit card. It became 60,000 dirham over so and so. The 60,000 dirham will just keep on accumulating, and it's just adding. Go for a simple personal loan where you have a X amount of a monthly installment, but you're going to pay only 3% for the entire year, or 4% for the entire year, instead of paying 36% over here. And this is a fixed payment, and by the end of the loan, you're sorted and you can get your life back, because people were drowning in debt. And trust me, this simple technique, you can't imagine how good of an advice it turned to be, and they really appreciated it.
Getting that credit card and using it in the most effective way. Would you say many people have that as a struggle when it comes to maintaining discipline?
Yes and no. We can't generalize, right? So I know a lot of people who use their credit card in a very good way. So credit cards are really good. I use them. But there are even tricks within credit cards for use. So if you can't make a payment 100% at this point in time, make sure you purchase from a place where you could make it over 3 months or 6 months. And the fee on that is going to be a 1%. It's not going to be much, right? But you'd rather pay 1% instead of paying 9%. So there are certain tricks you could do and use. Just make sure you do enough due diligence before making the move, especially if you're making big purchases or if you're making extremely frequent ones. So you just need to be mindful of how to do it, and a little bit of due diligence before is very important. Unfortunately, this little bit due diligence many people do not do, but that's my piece of advice.
On credit cards, how would you suggest someone manage, let's just say, having a credit card? Because usually on a credit card, they will have a limit beyond what they're making on a monthly basis.
Reduce the limit, Donna. Reduce the limit. Even now, there are certain bank apps where even if you have 100 limit, you could only unlock 10,000 from that limit. And the limit should be calculated. I pay X, Y, and Z on a monthly basis. These are fixed. Using your credit card is better than using cash. So let's say those are X amount of money. They're totaling up to 1,000 dirhams. Just shooting an eye. It's way more, but let's say 1,000 dirhams. Then let's say usually my grocery shopping is another 1,000. And you can just go back 6 months and take an average and you'd know. And then say I might need 1,000 extra. So total is 3,000. My limit is 100,000. I'm at the mall. I like a dress, or I like a suit, sorry. Or my wife likes a dress. That's more actually accurate. And she will go swap the card for 7,000. Now, this is where things break down. Now, can I afford the dress? Does she need the dress? And what do we do about these things? Because there's all nice and sweet and fancy stuff at the malls these days. But do we actually need them? This is where the question comes. So reverse calculate your monthly expenses, keep a little bit of an emergency limit and utilize it so and so. You'll find that people might keep a lower limit than what they actually spend. And this helps them to drop their expenses. And you'll find some people who are actually using it exactly for that particular high, or have separate cars, or use a prepaid card. So there are different ways.
If we were to fast forward to when one of your children is having their first job, what advice would you give to them?
So you don't need to fast forward because I give them today.
Okay.
So today, so I have 3 children, 2 of them can understand, 10 and 13. What I teach my children today, as much as they can absorb, right, is that whenever you're coming asking me to buy something, I need you to do 2 things. A, I need you to research and make sure you know why this particular item, which will help him know what to buy in the future and not to just follow whoever told him they bought this. And the second thing, I tell them always make sure you feel that this has the value for money. So don't come and tell me I just want to buy a shoe because I like that shoe. Tell me that this shoe has value for money. I don't have a black shoe because I need 1, 2, 3. And if you have another black shoes, you need to convince me why this one. Is it needed for your trainings? Is it needed for your soccer? Is the old shoes? So I always try to tell them value for money and all of that. And nowadays, if I am doing something, and funny enough, when I bought my car, my son is like, oh God, that's expensive. Do you think there's value for money in this? And I was like, oh my God, the magician, it turned around and came on me, right? But it's reality. So we really need to take care of the next generation. If today we're talking about credit cards and Apple Pay, other countries are talking about digital and cryptocurrencies, which will have even a different way of utilization or usage. So I think we should ensure that the next generation is up to the standards, or they actually know what they're doing, even adults. They would use their entire savings to go on a vacation, or to buy a car, or to buy a house, or so. And in wealth management, there's something called emergency cash. So you should always have an emergency cash and liquid cash, either in a mean of a savings account, current account, or a fixed deposit, which you can uplift at any point in time, because you can never predict tomorrow. And you don't want to disturb your entire planning because you don't have an emergency cash. So always keep a mean of emergency cash.
And what if someone's midway through their career and they haven't done that, they have no savings, let's just say, or they haven't built that discipline? What advice can you give to them to start?
I would say good. You've enjoyed your life, start doing it.
What would be like a 5-point guide to having your financial discipline set, like your savings, emergency fund? Is there like a guide that you could share with?
As they say, math or numbers do not lie. Start by analyzing your income, analyzing your expenses, disposable income, how to invest or where to save, and emergency cash. I would say those are the main things. If you can identify them in a very clear manner, I think you're sorted for future. And plan it, right? If they are drowning in debt, it's different if they have no debt, if they have just simple installments for a car or so on and so forth. And then it's as simple as it could start by buying a house, right? It could start by having a commitment that this is going to be my house, and plan it accordingly. And most people struggle with the down payment because they don't have the commitment or the discipline to do that. But my answer to them is that it's okay to go with the okay house. It does not need to be the dream house, because that's what you have today. So just be okay with the okay house. Let's realize where we stand and take it from that angle. To have self-discipline in you and control, I'll be very honest, Dana, it's not easy. But even if you think that you can't do it, have a very strong goal and make sure that to execute the goal, there is a commitment from your heart to do it. And there's even plans which forces you to be committed. Force yourself for those plans. When you pay the money, you are forcing yourself to be committed because you've paid the fees of this plan. Trust me, I have like 10 of them. But it's easy, right? Every time I have an increment or I have an extra cash or I have a surplus or I make money from an investment or so, I put it in a plan. I don't look at it. I move on in life. I don't want to see it. Let it be. It's there. It will be used or needed at one point in time. Life moves on. As long as we know that life moves on, things will be better. So sometimes you really need to be honest with yourself, and the advisor need to be honest with their clients. So there are mandatory things we need to be honest with our clients and with ourselves to do it. And I do it with myself. And I'm not taking plans just to have more plans. It's because my family's lifestyle are growing, and it's my responsibility, if I'm around or not, to ensure they maintain that lifestyle until they're financially free.
A lot of people might be, afraid to commit, or they feel like they might disappoint themselves or whatever it may be. What advice can you give for someone to overcome that fear? And let's just say they don't have an advisor.
Everything in life has a yes and a no, advantage and disadvantage, pros and cons, right? It's how you look at those type of things, and it's how you utilize them or how you use them. I'm afraid of commitment. You're afraid of commitment. Everyone is afraid of commitment. So you choose to take the yes or the no of any circumstances. And what I believe as a choice I took today might not resonate with you. It might turn good for me and bad for you. But as long as I have made a conscious decision and I took a choice, I just need to go with it. Now, you just make sure that these choices are choices that you've taken. And if you don't want to feel guilt, make sure you actually do a little bit due diligence or a little bit of consultation. And the normal people does these things by going back to their friends, family members, spouses, partners, and so on and so forth, right? But as long as you've done something before you take the choice, it could be ChatGPT, it's famous nowadays. But with this, you've just taken a choice. Now, if the choice is perfect, amazing. If it's not, we'll work around it and come up with another. But to go back to the point where people fear commitment, I would say channel that fear into a good thing. And of course, I want you to be afraid that this might be bad if I don't do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's not think, or let's not fear the future. Let's fear not taking the decision or taking the commitment. So channel it in a different way and let this fear be your driver to achieve your goal instead of the opposite way.
Yeah, I like that. Let that fear be the driver, because be more afraid of what would happen if you don't take action.
Absolutely.
Right? What would be the advice that you would give to someone that is wanting to take a step back in their finances because they realize that they're maybe living beyond their means, but they're concerned as to falling behind when it comes to societal pressure?
So you just said it yourself, it's pressure. And again, pressure is a mindset. And in many circumstances, we all go through the same thing. Well, I'll tell them, look around you and look at the billionaires, the top 5 billionaires. So I would tell them, look at these successful people. How do they live? And what do they do? And you will see billionaires who are driving a $5 million car, and you'll see billionaires driving a $5,000 or $2,000 car. So
Yeah.
it's just a mindset. Never feel pressured. Always feel proud of what you have achieved. Because whatever you've done so far, you've done it all with your hard work and dedication. And you should never be ashamed or pressured or shy. Sit back at home, talk to yourself, one of those quiet nights with nice music, and reflect and aim, plan, and move on. The good thing in the financial world, you could learn. It's not like you have 600 books you need to memorize, become a doctor. You could probably learn a book and realize what decisions are you taking and have more informative call.
If you were to summarize the key takeaways you want our listeners to leave with, what will be those 3 main points?
Identify your goal, plan it, and commit to it. It is simple to put it on paper, but how to exercise it is a different thing.
That's a mindset then, right?
Yep, absolutely.
On to my last question for the episode. What is wealth to you outside of the money?
In my opinion, wealth is happiness. You reach happiness every day, and you don't need to be in a good health, broke, with money, without money, happy at your job or not happy at your job. Happiness is a state of mind where any of us can reach there as long as they know what really matters. Again, happiness is a state of mind. You know what to do. Take your choices, move on in life.
This was really an insightful conversation. Thank you so much, Raed, for your time.
Thank you so much, Dan.
If this episode sparked a thought or habit worth sharing, pass it along to someone who could benefit as you did today. And don't forget to tune in next time, where we will be discussing effective ways to get you closer to your goals. Until then, take care.